Sophisticated attackers are targeting credentials to escalate privileges. Ativo Networks provides an innovative solution that finds, cleans, and monitors exposed credentials to reduce attack surfaces. Additionally, the solution alerts when attackers try accessing Active Directory objects while hiding data and derailing them with disinformation. Organizations can go one step further and hide real credentials among deceptive lures that lead attackers to decoys for recording TTPs and forensic evidence. Find out more at securityweekly.com/Ativo Networks and sign up for a free trial. Qualys has brought together vulnerability management and patch management, letting security teams discover vulnerabilities and apply patches immediately, all within a single, unified app. Sign up for a free trial of Qualys VMDR, vulnerability management, detection, and response today at securityweekly.com/Qualys. Did you miss Security Weekly Unlocked? Shame on you. You shouldn't have missed it. But if you did miss it, you can access all of the great content on demand, whether you registered before the live event or not, by visiting securityweekly.com/unlocked, clicking the link to either register if you didn't register before, or to log in if you did register before. So go do that at securityweekly.com/unlocked. This is Paul Security Weekly. Welcome back, everyone. Joining us for this segment is Bill DeLisi. Bill joins us to talk about GOFBA, the National Safer Internet, and the National Safer Internet Day. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. Bill, how did you get your start in information security?
I started a long time ago when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My father sold and serviced the Teletype Model 33 ASR, which was the auto send in. You remember that? It had a tape. It had an 8-hole.
He does. He's
well,
old.
I think
he remembers.
You were probably about you were probably in diapers then. But it had an 8-hole tape reader and punch, and it was huge too. It's about the size. It's about 6 feet wide, about 4 feet tall, and it was really loud. And it was actually like the first fax machine. So you could send information over the telephone lines with this machine, and it had this big roll of tape with a bunch of holes in it, and it would actually send information over the phone lines. And this was back in around the mid 60s. So it was pretty cool to have that back then. And after that, when my dad, he took me on sales calls, he took me on repair calls. He started doing mainframe repair and services, IBM mainframe, other mainframes. And so he took me along with him. And so I was able to see these huge servers that would fill rooms. And I remember them telling me, this has got more memory than all the other all the other mainframes combined, and which, as a little kid, I was very impressed. And so my dad taught me everything about the computer's ins and outs. He even taught me about the IBM and the Seven Dwarfs. You ever heard of that?
No. What was that? You reminded me of a book I read, and I don't know if you've read it, Bill. Stephen Levy, Hackers, Heroes of the Computer Revolution. Did you read that one?
Yes.
Yeah, that would take you back to your childhood visiting mainframes with your dad, right?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. And so IBM and the Seven Dwarfs was Burroughs, UNIVAC, NCR, Honeywell, General Data, and RCA, and something else I forget. But those
Wang
were
in
the.
there?
Excuse me?
Was it Wang?
Control Data, not Wang. Control Data.
Control Data, not Wang.
Lee is also old, just in case.
Yes. No,
We'll all shut up.
I didn't say you were old. So I was asking about, is this time for Stogie Geeks?
Oh yeah, it's always time for a cigar. There's no time
that's
like
awesome.
the present for a cigar.
Yes. I tell you, just to get off subject for a second, do you remember Andy, Cigar Man Andy?
No.
When you guys had him on for Stogie Geeks?
Stogie Santa.
Yeah. He is a good friend of mine. He's in the same forum that I'm in. He is the non-Cuban expert. I'm the Cuban expert. And so I've been smoking Cuban cigars for over 20 years. So but let's get back on track here.
I was hoping we continue. Well, all right, you'll have to come on Stogie.
While I was in college, I went through the Citadel for the first year of college, and then Winthrop College after that in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And I was recruited by government intelligence. It was at the time it was called the Air Force Security Services, which is a secret organization back then. It was kind of like the Air Force's version of the NSA. And I started out.
I knew you looked familiar.
Yeah.
So I started out as a ditty bopper. Do you know what that is? You ever heard of that?
No.
A ditty bopper is someone who intercepts and records Morse code. If you can believe that, that's how old I am. So when I started out, they were still intercepting and recording Morse code. So we would put headsets on, and it'd be like like that. And of course, we're typing on the monitor because you have to remember it, right? I got to like 25 groups per minute, and a group is 5 characters.
Wow.
And so that was pretty good. But then I got bored, so I asked if I could go to crypto, and they said, "Sure, we need more people in crypto." So I went to crypto, and that's where that's what we called code breakers.
Wait, the Air Force had its own crypto and code breakers? Hold on now.
Absolutely.
I thought that was no such agency.
It was. We were like a NSA junior at the time. Remember, check it out. The Air Force Security Services, AFSS, is a secret organization within the Air Force. I had a top secret security clearance, which I still have to this day. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool because we did a lot of code breaking, and it was a lot of fun. And then I went into field work, which was very interesting. I can't talk about that, but I can tell you that it was never boring. So, and then fresh out of military intelligence, I was working as a contractor for IBM, and I think it was about 1988 when the Morris worm was released. Have you heard about that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and that's the time I developed a passion for cybersecurity, and so I was working with IBM as a contractor. I helped create the IBM Hardware Forum, which back then we called SIGs, which is a special interest group. It wasn't called a forum.
No.
Worked with Michael Dell. We worked with him to answer questions to the public. Public would log into our SIGs, and they would ask him questions. And then, you remember Quorum?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we worked with Quorum as well. Then we had meetups we called bashes. So I'm aging myself until I'm kind of letting people know how old I'm at. But it's all building the foundation from where I'm at today.
Jeff looks like he's checking out your story like with his buddies in some super secret chat.
No, it's this is all sounding really familiar.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then you remember we didn't have webcams, but we did have things like finger coke at cmu.eme or
Yeah. Finger. I remember
that?
Yeah.
You could see you could actually see how many cokes were in there, the inventory, the temperature of the coke machine, which that was so cool.
I just wrote slides about that for IoT course that I'm writing.
No way. That's so cool.
I was waiting for you to say, Bill, like you took the original one-time pads and you created a computer program for. Oh wait, that was Jeff. Never mind.
He might have used it. You never know.
You never know.
He beat me to it. Okay, I was planning on doing that. So, but I would surf FTP servers, using SAP, IRC chat, email, all on a 14.4 baud. So that was a lot of fun back then.
We got a lot of explaining to do for our younger audience out there about 14.4 and baud is and all that stuff.
Hey, Paul, I gotta ask you a question on that. Do you remember when you were a university consultant? This is for the old guys in the room, right? When you were a university consultant and modems were upgraded from 300 baud up to the 1275 baud modems. Do you remember that time?
That was before I was at university, Jeff, but I do remember using like upgrading 14.4 to 28.8 and using a modem to go into a bank of modems at the company that I worked for and checking my email over Lotus Notes.
Okay, so I just have to tell a brief story. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I will tell the story.
No, please do.
I was doing university work at that time, and we had faculty that were complaining. And you know what the number one reason they were complaining was? No. At 1200 baud, the screen refresh was too fast for them to read the text in real time.
The email in Pine was scrolling too fast for them to read.
Right.
Yeah. That was it. I'm sorry. That just came to me when you said that, and I was just like, "Oh my God, those were the days," you know. And I had faculty literally. I had the same thing with faculty that did not want to move off of DOS because it works fine in DOS. Why should I have this GUI Windows thing? I mean, it's just like it was so funny. Anyway. Go back. Keep talking.
So you remember Doom, the game back then? I think it was 1992 when it came, or 93.
Yeah. Well, funny about modems.
When it first came out.
Yeah, my cousin and I used to call each other over the modem and play Doom in the same world, and that was like really cutting edge.
Freshman year of college, we took the ceiling, the lights off the ceiling, and we ran a serial cable.
Serial cables. Yeah. And when you would come over, we'd use a serial cable there. Yep.
Yeah, we would go into the IBM offices and we would set up like a token ring protocol. Which was their
been there.
Land, you know.
Been there. I've broken many rings and cleared many ports to plug it in. Yep. With the what did they call it? Was it the port clear? I don't remember what they called it, but I have one somewhere still to this day. And you would clear the port with it, and then you would plug in the token ring cable.
Correct.
I never did token ring. I was all Ethernet, thin wire. But anyway.
Actually, speed wise, it was really good. The resiliency was not there because if the ring was broken, you were screwed.
Right. And before DNS,
pretty much.
Go ahead.
I used to trip over it all the time.
What years were you active duty, if you can say?
I was active duty from 79 until 86.
Okay.
I think you just missed each other, Jeff.
Yeah, just missed. Because I did, well, we should talk offline.
Okay.
Probably best.
Sounds good.
Probably.
How about over a cigar?
Okay. There you go. Yes, Jeff is very much a cigar aficionado.
I feel like the executive cone of silence just came down. But, you know, that happens.
That was a reference to an old TV show. Again, youngins are going to have to do a lot of Googling.
They need to get smart about that. Yeah, that's for sure.
Hey, you know what? Generations,
there's got to be
they need to study the past.
That's right.
So before DNS, remember we had to remember every IP address of every host on the internet. If you wanted to connect to like anything, any host that you had to connect to, you had to remember the IP address. So you kept them in your etc/host files. Can you imagine doing that today? Crazy.
Actually, I've come across.
Imagine putting a plus sign or two in your Etsy host file.
Yeah. No, look, I've actually come across organizations that have ditched DNS and maintain flat host files on their internal networks today.
Interesting.
I shit you not. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, you know, the before DNS, first of all, how many people can say that? Etsy host is a real thing. And actually, name resolution goes through Etsy hosts still to this day on most systems, which a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, and of course, every new Linux distro, they change how that works.
Script kiddie fuckers. Okay, sorry.
It's so annoying. Like, what we had worked a really long time ago. Why do you feel the need to anyway?
Yeah, really. And you remember there was no way to send pictures unless you use like
go
UU encode. Remember that?
Yeah.
UU encode,
WU encode things, and use Newsnet. Remember?
Newsnet. Yeah. And you had to learn how to spell anonymous correctly.
And that was a pain in the ass.
Until FTP became an alias for it. Yes.
Alias for anonymous. Then you could use FTP.
I thought you were going to say
this
an
is like
enabler.
The old drinking club right here. I feel like we need like the Saturday Night Live, like 5 timers club vests or something. I mean, it's what was it? Was it the 20 timers or 10 timers? I don't remember. We need jackets, man.
You remember when you had to download an image and you had to download the 32 UU encoded pieces and then put them together?
Oh,
Piece them all
I
together,
do
yeah.
remember.
And then
that.
somebody said there's this browser called Mosaic. You pointed
We
at
were
net
saying
news and holy
newfangled
mackerel,
stuff.
it did it for you.
Yes. We
Yeah,
thought
that's
that
the porn industry on the internet was born.
Yep,
Hey,
Hey, man, it kept it alive.
did.
Amen for that.
we had to
Yeah,
block alt.porn.
so shortly after that, the Melissa virus came out, and then the I Love You virus. That was really a cool one. I think that was considered the deadliest virus of all time. Was the I Love You?
Yeah.
And that's when I really created passion for cybersecurity.
Yeah,
And
I'm in the same boat with you, Bill. I was at the lottery company, I think, when that broke out before I went to the university, and I was like, these viruses, that's really cool. I get in this security thing, right?
I know.
Yeah.
So then I started studying polymorphic viruses, the macro, and then the 16-bit complicated polymorphic virus came out, and then worms. I believe the first one was Happy 99, and then the Melissa worm, Explore, Zip, CAC, ZTS, all of those.
Code Red. Code Red was one of my favorites.
Code Red.
And Paul just wanted to see naked pictures of Anna Kournikova.
There was that. There was
that was that virus. I remember that.
Intrigue
virus. Yeah. And then after that, you had Trojans, malwares, and of course ransomware. And so that led me to studying symmetric and asymmetric encryption, and it's been a love affair ever since.
Larry, do you want to do the honors of telling the joke?
Yes, please.
So, what are the three forms of encryption?
In Canada.
In Canada, sorry, my bad.
Oh, in Canada, okay.
Yep. So, symmetric, asymmetric, and symmetric, eh?
It gets me every time.
That belongs on the
never
dad's
gets old.
joke
It
thread.
doesn't. It
Yeah.
never gets old.
That's okay. I'm a lover of dad jokes, and so
We are as well.
I love corn.
So what is GAFPA?
Yeah.
Are we there yet?
No, we're at the what am I passionate about? Unless
Oh,
you want to
okay.
skip that.
No, definitely don't want to skip that.
I didn't ask what you're passionate about, but we're having fun, so keep going, Bill.
Okay.
I asked how you got your start, but this is great. I'm just loving it. Keep going.
Well, I love quantum computing. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's what we're really focusing on in our group: quantum computing, and quantum encryption. And so we have to come out with quantum encryption before we come out with the quantum computing.
Yep.
Because if you don't, there's going to be a lot of problems. And so if you can think about, I think about 2010, we had about 10 qubits on a working quantum computer. Last year, there were 80. And
Was that the one in China? Didn't China claim they had?
they claimed it, but they didn't. This was IBM.
Gotcha.
They had 80. And then China's they're claiming they have a 100 qubit quantum computer. So if that was true, they could hack into anything within a matter of seconds. Is
that application specific? Like you can build it for a certain purpose, though, right?
Right. You have to build it for a specific purpose. It's very myopic. But if you can think about this, like a 100 qubit quantum computer, theoretically, will be more powerful than all the supercomputers combined in the entire planet. That's just going from 80 to 100, which is crazy. And so, our biggest problem is error correction, noise suppression, things like that. That's something that everyone has a problem with. But that is my passion, and I love it. So it's something that keeps me going.
And where do we stand today with quantum computing, Bill? Is it like how worried should we be that someone could build such a computer that could break any? So how close were the movie Sneakers? Wasn't that the premise of Sneakers?
Yeah, I would say, it could be
Sort of.
tomorrow.
Sorta.
Could be 5 years from now. Could be 100 years from now. That's how up in the air it is.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's going to be within the next 5 years. I think that IBM is getting close. China is getting close. Google say they're very close, and so that's why we're working on quantum encryption.
The thing with Google is once they have it, they'll just kill the project and move on to something else because that's what they do.
That's true. That's true. They get bored very easily. So, are you familiar with quantum encryption?
Yeah.
We've done some segments on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's another passion of mine. And then quantum cryptography, generating and distributing the key, not to move data, but just to encrypt and decrypt in the encryption algorithm. So that's a passion of mine. We're working on that, and so it's something that we're going to make sure that we're one of the first ones at it.
And so is it like a think tank that you're part of, Bill, or?
No, it's our company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you're building quantum computers to do quantum cryptography?
That's correct. Yes.
And forgive my ignorance, is this specialized hardware and specialized software? Like what if I were to set out and say I want to build a quantum computer and the goal is to do some kind of quantum cryptography, what would I need to do?
Well, I guess you would have to, first of all, you'd have to create the quantum computer, which is very difficult in itself. You have to have a very cold environment. You have to work with supposition and entanglement, which are two features of quantum physics. You have to understand the basics of quantum physics to be able to handle the software loads. I guess you pretty much have to just start from ground zero and work your way up from there. But it's something that anybody can do on a lower level, like maybe a 10 qubit or 15 qubit system.
Is this like I'm going to like Newegg and buying a new AMD processor and I'm going to turn it into a quantum computer, or like what do I gotta? Can I go to Best Buy and buy the stuff, or?
No. You have to go to specialty stores to get to get the equipment.
Gotcha.
Hey, can I ask a question on that?
Please do.
Yes.
So, God, that background of mine is horrible. Is the approach with quantum-based cryptography similar to the approach that we used to? So if you look at the AES algorithm, for example, right, it's a symmetric key cryptography algorithm. It's block-based, et cetera, et cetera. It's got, S boxes. It's got various XORs in it and rounds and all the stuff that makes up AES. So in the world of quantum, is that same concept of symmetric cryptography and the same kind of design brought over there, or is it actually fundamentally different?
Fundamentally different. When you start working with the quantum circuit modes and the Turing machine, the adiabatic quantum computer becomes like a one-way quantum computer, and then you have cellular automata. That's the most widely used circuit, is the cellular automata.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's several different models. The easiest one is the quantum circuit model, and that you can go online and get equipment for that.
Interesting. I've got a whole another 20 years of study in front of me now. That's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. That's cool.
I mean, I was always sort of passingly interested, but I think we're going to, with what you're saying and what everybody else is predicting as well, when it becomes a real entity, within the next few years, and we see an associated breakdown in traditional cryptography as we know it, we're going to have to get really interested really quickly.
And then once it gets to the next level, we'll see Star Wars type of stuff. We'll see sentient beings, and we'll cure cancer, and it's just a lot of cool applications that are going to be available.
One thing that gets me about Star Wars is they never addressed the lack of gravity in space. They addressed that shit in Star Trek, but like in Star Wars, never talked about. I don't see that in any Star Wars works where they address the anti-gravity.
They address it in The Expanse too. So
Right.
They definitely address it. It's a part of the plot in The Expanse, right? Can quantum computers help us with that? Not the Star Wars problem, yeah.
They can help you with anything except for brushing your teeth or taking a shower.
But I could have a robot that would help me with that, right?
Well, the massage, the robot can help you with a massage, that's for sure. Or light your cigar.
There you go. I think I got that covered, though. I don't know. So working in this company, Bill, it says you're doing other things for Internet Safety Day. Tell us about
that. Internet safety? Oh, you mean Internet Safety Week coming up?
Yes, Internet Safety Week, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of our passions as well. I have written several articles. If you go to Google and put my name in there, you'll see maybe 15 articles that I've written about this. There's certain things you can do to make sure that you're very safe. Number one, back up your data. You'd be surprised how many people don't do that. Number two, secure your devices and your network. Internet of Things are very common, but when people bring their own, don't trust it. Never trust the Internet of Things. Never trust your employees with email. Those are two things. Encrypt all your important information. Ensure that you use multi-factor authentication. Manage your passphrases. Monitor the use of equipment and systems. But I think the most important thing is to train your staff. A majority of breaches are caused by someone clicking an email. Whether it be a phishing email or spear phishing email, somebody clicked that email and gave somebody root access, and that's you guys are well aware of that. Train your staff to be safe online. You go to porn at the office, you're going to get problems. So you make sure that everything's filtered and secure, and I think that's a good start.
Certainly, there's so many organizations that just don't do those basic, 4 or 5 things.
Yeah, sure.
And you make it sound easy, but I mean, it's really not, though.
Well, we can get into sophisticated areas like network behavioral analysis, real-time protection like Background Guard, Radiant Shield. You have a forensics lab set up so you can replay attacks. Different things like that, I think, is very important as well. But I think they're a little more sophisticated for the IT people.
Yeah, I think, if you're practicing good password hygiene, as it were, MFA, JOF, Larry, I think when those things don't exist, it's a night and day difference, right? When you're doing tests.
That is correct. Yes.
Sure.
I mean, these days I'm telling a lot of clients, it's almost a de facto thing now. If you've got anything external facing and it's not MFA, then you're just asking for trouble.
That is correct. Yes.
That's just it. So nothing else to say other than that.
Well, I think the tricky part with MFA is, we're kind of describing up to this point as, something you don't have turned on, you turn it on, and then life is good. But making sure that it's turned on for all of your services, and making sure it's kept turned on, getting an alert when it's turned off, right? Starts to speak to some of the more advanced things you have to do in your program.
Right.
That's where it becomes difficult, right? I mean, it's pretty easy, but you've got a lot of Microsoft certifications. You could guide us, like, where you go to go turn on MFA. I found the more difficult and challenging part is when you've got that executive or whoever it is going, I'm traveling, or this thing's getting in my way. You got to go turn it off now. They go over your head and they turn it off. You don't get an alert. And then how long is it before you realize that control is missing?
Usually it's too long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't realize it until, it looks like one of our accounts are compromised. Like, how did that happen? Oh,
correct.
Well, so-and-so said you had to turn it off because it was getting in their way.
Right.
That's what I think makes security, one of the things that makes security at that level at least very difficult.
Well, it certainly keeps it interesting.
Oh, yeah.
What else, Bill? What else you working on?
Well, Golfba, that's our search engine, similar to Google, but I know you're not gonna like this, Paul, but it's without the pornography. But there's no how to make a bomb, how to be a terrorist. There's no how to rape a woman or any other inappropriate results. We've been working on this project for over 14 years. And if you think about it, Google, Bing, Yahoo, they don't need to have all these results in their database. They could remove them if they want, just like they have removed politically oriented results that we won't get into.
Well, Bill, like, how do you? And it's interesting. We've had this conversation in a very humorous light, but in all seriousness, how do you determine what's appropriate and what's not?
That's a great question, and so I look at it this way: if you have, let's say, a 12 or 13-year-old daughter, what would you want her looking at? And so that kind of gives me a track to run on. I don't want her looking at violent things or, somebody getting their head cut off or pornography. I would want her to look at stuff that is wholesome and things that are educating and some things that can uplift her and increase her intellect. I know that people say, "Oh, well, you're censoring the internet." Well, hell yeah, I am. And if you don't like it, go to Google.
But how do you determine what's pornography and what's not? I mean, certainly.
Just ask Maplethorpe, right?
Well, I mean, someone who's naked necessarily isn't pornography, and certainly that can go way deep down a rabbit hole, right?
But, unless you're a guy.
I mean, to your point, Jim.
No, you make it. It depends on
it depends on the context, though. I mean,
you make a good point.
There's art, right?
Michelangelo David.
Right.
That's not pornography, but there is. He is naked.
How do you treat that in your search engine? Is that no Michelangelo?
Good question.
What about Titian?
We have that keeps us up at night. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Things like that are the ones that are the difficult ones. But the things like how to rape a woman, there's over 280 million results on Google. That's an easy one. We don't need that. The Boston Marathon bombers found their pressure cooker recipe on Google. We don't need that. There's certain things that we don't need. We know that, and that makes it easy for us to remove these items. And but you're right, there's gray lines, and we're still working on that. We err on the side of wholesome. We err on the side of family-friendly type of atmosphere.
Can you define wholesome in your context?
Yeah, anything that would be suitable for a 12 or 13-year-old girl or boy. So
white girl, black girl, boy or girl that's grown up in the inner city or the suburbs. I mean, even that is a loaded statement.
Sure. That's true. But I would think about as a child, as one of your children. So not necessarily someone off the street. So one of your children. What is appropriate for that child? Would you let your 12 or 13-year-old boy or girl look at somebody having sex online?
No.
I raised my children on Animal House and Wayne's World and the Blues
Yeah.
Brothers.
Right,
If that tells you anything.
I love it. I love it.
But it's interesting how you train the model, Bill, right? Because I'm sure there's AI type models that are built in. And if you train it in the light of, as the programmer, what would I allow my 12-year-old boy or girl to, consume online? If you can train that correctly, you come up with a good outcome. I think it's all about how you train the model to draw those conclusions. That's really tricky business, though, because like we said, there's a lot of gray area in there too.
And that's what keeps me up at night. And I love it, but I hate it at the same time. And then you have to live with your decisions that you make, and you just go on. You move forward.
Recently, I've switched to DuckDuckGo as my search engine.
Yeah.
Because more and more, largely, well, there's the privacy thing, but largely, I am learning not to trust what Google's presenting me as results. Because I'm finding, if I search for things, let's say COVID related, that Google gives me different results than does DuckDuckGo. And to what extent, in maybe some of your research in different search engines, are they kind of determining, again, what's appropriate and what's not?
Well, I mean, if you want to get into it, Google has, they have a purpose with their search results, and it's to give you the information that they want to give you rather than the information that you're looking for. And so what they'll do is they'll slant what you're looking for into what they want to give you. Unlike DuckDuckGo, you're not going to have your information sucked out of your computer with DuckDuckGo like Google does. When you go to Google and you search for razor blades, for shaving, and then the next 10 sites you go to, you're getting inundated by razor blade ads.
Yeah. The more concerning thing is I think the inter-app sharing of that data. I went to Google. Now I was in Chrome on the app on my phone, and I searched for something. Now when I go look at my Facebook feed, like it learned what I'm like, hold on. Why? Hold on. These are two totally separate apps. Like, why? And I think the ability to sever that connection, I think it's kind of what Apple's kind of leaning towards. And I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing in the context of maybe I do want, my Facebook feed and the advertisements to be tuned to what I search for. Maybe I don't want it listening to what I say, but the thing that I really want is control over those things. I want knobs and switches to go, like full privacy mode. Don't share. Don't listen to what I'm saying. I want the option.
And you want a privacy mode that actually works. So.
Right.
I want something different. This is very intriguing, and I appreciate you having this discussion, Bill. I think we're roughly the same. You might be a little bit older than me, but we're roughly contemporary
But I look younger.
peers.
I'm sorry.
It's the
Fair
beard.
enough.
It makes Jeff look older.
And the more I let it grow. In the early days of search engines, and I don't know what was technically the first search engine, but the old original Yahoo, Alta Vista, my personal favorite. But back in those days, if you typed in a search query, your results were based on the frequency, how often the search terms showed up, and
the way it was supposed to be. Yeah.
Right.
I'm interested in your perspective on this, but I would prefer a search engine that just gives me God honest results without filters, without bias, without, well, we think you want to do this, because you can't trust, in my opinion, any search results these days because they've got so many damn algorithms built in there trying to give you what you think you want to see, what they think you want to see, rather than just what's out there.
I'm sorry, Dave. I can't show you those results.
That's
Seriously.
a great point. And, Google has gone so far away from that that it's just difficult to use it. I think DuckDuckGo has, they're closer to it, but they get their results. You know where they get their results from, right?
No, wait. They get them from Google?
Yeah. And so we're
They Google.
They Google. I mean, Google.
It's like an infinite loop.
Yes.
It's
And so
crazy
we're
because we've all
trying
seen the
to-
sci-fi movies, right, where the company's so big it becomes a verb and the whole
Right.
thing, and they control it. It really is Google today, right?
That's right.
There are
That's
movies
really
around these topics, which is interesting.
Good
Well,
point.
and I would in my earlier my earlier queries, and I probably didn't. What I was trying to get at is I'm curious in terms of your wholesome filtering, whatever you call it. I was curious as to where you draw the line on not necessarily political issues, but current events, social event, things that are happening in the world today.
Yeah, like
And
what
so
happens if I search for QAnon in your search engine?
Well, I haven't done that one yet, but I want to ask you this question. I find this fascinating.
You'll see my picture. Yeah.
I'm at your website, and I found the little search. Type in your query, did the search, and I typed in BLM because I wanted to see what came up. And there's there's 19 results, but the only one that shows, there's the scroll bar. The first one that pops up is Bureau of Land Management, and I'm like, whoa, that's really interesting.
And
Now,
so you see where we're going there. Yes, you're right. You're correct. And
number 2 was BlackLivesMatter.com. But I was just curious as to, there's certain things that are happening in the world today, while not pleasant, while not nice, while the people that live in the comfortable settings, in the suburbs, in the white suburbs, are not necessarily wanting to see. It's also not a reality for a significant portion of the population in other parts of the world and in other communities. I'm not making a value judgment, because I'm sure it's a tough nut to crack and it's hard to draw, decide where to draw the line. Was just trying to get a better feel for where and how you guys are drawing the line.
we are centrist. Yes, we are centrist. If you look at Guppa News, our whole platform is centrist. We want to be right in the center. We don't want to be really left. We don't want to be really right. But we want to be right. We want to be sure that we cover both sides honestly and truly.
But how do you validate the results though? Because that's like you said, DuckDuckGo gets their results from Google. How do you fact check today? I mean, we as humans, I'm sure many of us do too, on the panel today and listening, have a tough time. Like, what is the truth? What is the truth? Because there are so many sources, to your point, Bill, that are swinging to one side or another, whether that's political or otherwise, that the information largely on the internet today is biased. And how do we cut through that and get to what is the truth?
The truth is out there, Paul, and I want to believe.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Hey, can I make a quick comment? Just jump in here. Something that I don't think was said, and that is actually important to say, and I'll say it every time I get the chance to, and that's about Google. We have to remember that Google's entire mission is focused on surveillance capitalism. Their entire mission is about generating data they can sell to the highest bidder. And so that's what wasn't said earlier, and their search engine reflects that. So I just wanted to make sure to get that out there very clearly.
And they used to say that they weren't evil, but now they don't say that anymore, which is also one of the reasons I switched to DuckDuckGo.
They're proud of that. You can tell. Their whole agenda is centered around that.
Yeah. So, Bill, how do we find the truth? Wow, that's a loaded. I mean, not to give you a softball question.
How much
right?
time do we have? Jeez.
Let me get comfortable over here, okay?
Light that cigar.
Yeah.
Let's light this up.
Spark it up.
I think that's a good question for the Stogie geek, blog or
invite me to that episode, Paul.
Right. Let's find the truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is out there. This is something we go over every day here at Guppa. Someone says, "Well, this looks good." In our whole news team, we've got people that are liberal, we have people that are conservative, and we got people that really don't give a damn. And we kind of blend them together, and we say, "Okay, I want you to to show me what you think of this, and I want you to tell me what you think of this. And, we go back and forth, and we come to a decision. And a lot of times it's easy, but some of the times it's impossible. And so, yeah, it's an ongoing problem that I don't think we'll ever solve, but we'll continue to strive towards solving it.
Hey, at least you're trying. At least you're trying, right? I want to ask a question because I'm not quite hearing the name of the organization correctly. So, how do you spell your domain name?
And what does it stand for?
GOFBA. GOFBA.
FBA. GOFBA.
Golf Oscar Foxtrot Baker Alpha.
Correct.
Because
Bravo.
And is it a
Baker
.com?
Yeah, it was called Go FBA. We had when we originally started 15 years ago, it was Feedback Alert, and we were going to give people feedback to different things like your doctor or attorneys and stuff. And then somebody else came out with that, and so we just kind of morphed into a search engine and other modules, and then we called it Go FBA. And I was coding on. I remember I was doing something, and then my niece looked over my shoulder and says, "Uncle Bill, what is GOFBA?" I'm like, GOFBA? Who told you that? She goes, I'm looking at it right there, GOFBA. And it was so natural for her to say it. We just started calling it GOFBA after that. So that's how it happened.
So it's Go
cool.
FBA.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay, now I found it, so I will spread the word to my friends and like-minded people that are of a centrist nature, which I am as well.
And I was going to say too, I think that there was COVID definitely stoked the flames of many of us certainly in the hacking community to be able to find the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in a way was a positive thing. So I agree. Right? Because we need, what is the truth? Like, do the vaccines really work? Do masks really work? And
do you really need it? Yeah.
What I love about the hacking community is we're very analytical, very much take a scientific approach. I think that's kind of built into our DNA. Like, if you're in this field and you're a hacker, you're like, I need to do some research. Like,
there's some bad actors, yeah.
But there's the data centric kind of view also that we bring. Like, is this thing vulnerable or is it not? Can I break into this thing or can I? I need to find some data points, right? And I appreciate that, and I think certainly my friends and I have done a really good job, and the conversations I've had with my friends have been very scientific, leaving out politics of what's the answer. Bringing that into search engine is, I think, really difficult. I applaud your efforts. One of the things that I think is also really interesting is I read the Facebook feed and trying to validate what's there. Anything that comes in the form of an image, I just throw out immediately. If it's in an image and it's trying to say something, it's usually a lie, right?
Correct.
I don't know if there's any science to that, but I think it's
I understand your reasoning.
Right, but it's interesting to think about how that has influenced things like scams that directly hit us in the security community, also things like misinformation. I think it's interesting that images are the chosen format for spreading misinformation. Is there science there, right, to make it harder to analyze, or what?
They're so effective,
Yeah, and there is also the psychological component. Bill, I agree.
Yes, I look at it this way. Hacking is moving away the dirt to get to the real data, so that you can formulate a conclusion. Mm-hmm. Just makes sense in that respect.
Yeah, it's always been like like Oracle saying that we're unhackable, or anyone that comes out and says we're unhackable, like. Really? Because, what does the data say? Because the data probably doesn't. I bet you the data doesn't say that you're unhackable, so I need to research this. And usually,
Dominion comes to mind, yeah.
Right? 99.9% of the time, we're like, no, you're hacked, right after that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Those companies that deal in those type of absolutes, that just reads to me as the sentence of challenge accepted.
Right.
You can't do this. You want to make a bet? Right. Yes, I can.
But Larry, to your point, what's really prolific about your statement is that when you deal in absolutes, that's when you get yourself into trouble. And I think it's a lot of the things with COVID and other things political, like vaccines don't work. Well, that's we know, like, it's the security vendors going, we'll stop 100% of attacks. It's okay, you're not going to stop all of them, right? You may stop some in certain situations. So, like, let's collect the data and realize, like, okay, yes, vaccines not 100%. We get that, right? But, like, what's the data show? What's the real world application? And it's never, Larry, to your point, in an absolute, right?
Yeah.
And
Vaccines don't
it
work.
depends on who you talk to or where you get your information from. That's the problem. You know, you're going to hear different things from different people, different organizations, and you have to formulate your own opinion at that point.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, vaccines don't work. Tell that to my mom who got polio. 3 weeks after the vaccine was announced that it was available, but had been developed and worked, but wasn't available to everyone.
Yeah,
right.
She'd have loved that.
And if that's not telling the times today, like right now, right, with respect to vaccines.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. So, best of luck, Bill. I'm trying to find the truth out there, right? That's a really big nut swallow, right?
Yes, and that's my objective. Let's put it that way. Always seeking the truth, never quite getting it, but always seeking the truth.
Outstanding.
Just remember, there's 3 sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth.
That's very true, Jeff.
I think 4 and what you perceive as the truth, right?
Yeah. And perception can be changed. I think that's largely what we're seeing when we talk about search engines and getting the right news. So, awesome. Well, Bill, thank you so much for appearing on Paul Security Weekly this evening.
My pleasure. I loved it. Thank you.
Well, with that, we'll take a short
Bill.
break. Come back with the security news, where an alert was sent out, but it was about Chucky. Stay tuned.